What gifts have been brought to me? Once again, this vampiric relic is in the proper hands of LordeStarfox and, of course, the Midnight Society. Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Still warm, just the way I like it. My creatures of the night, who dares awaken me from my slumber? Small town monsters, Aaron and Heather. This is always excellent to see both of you venture into the darkness of the fox den, as again we have Dogman and werewolf things to attend to. Please allow me to free myself from my silver chains and shackles, as Heather and Aaron and myself will be burning the midnight timber into the early hours of the morning. As always, there are contracts that are owed to me. Heather and Aaron, are we ready to figure out some amazing stuff tonight or what?
I have never been more ready, as far as I can
Absolutely.
tell.
I love it. To the audience, Heather and Aaron only get to hang out with us occasionally. Lucky for me, though, I get to talk to both of them pretty consistently with a good old text. But I got to make sure to let the audience get some good old time with small town monsters as well. Tonight, we are going to start the episode off with seeing what Heather and Aaron think about the missing person issue that is occurring within the United States, followed up by their thoughts as what these werewolf slash dog men like beings could be. Are they spiritual? Are they supernatural? Are they extraterrestrial? Are they flesh and blood? Or do they venture in all realms? Then, to finish up the episode, Small Town Monsters is going to be telling us the epic endeavors and adventures they will be dealing with coming up very shortly. Yes, every year within the United States, minus Alaska and Hawaii, anywhere from 1,100 to 2,400 people just vanish within the national forest. This doesn't mean they come back and hang out like Aaron, Heather, and myself. No, this means some very bizarre things have happened. 5% of these people are ever found. And guess what? It's usually not in a very good mannerism. Starting off with Heather, then tossing it over to Aaron. Let's get ready to rumble, my friends.
Yeah. So the missing people thing is something that absolutely terrifies me for a multitude of reasons. One, just thinking about a loved one disappearing, right? Also, concern for oneself. Some of the most terrifying stories are people that are doing mundane things, going on a walk. This is something that actually, I know we're going to talk a little later about things that we're covering with STM, but we discussed this in Bennington Triangle. There were a series of missing persons cases that occurred around Glastonbury Mountain, and some of the missing people were literally doing regular things, going on a hike, and away they went. They just disappeared. Or there was a boy who just stepped out of his mother's vehicle as she was attending some local there were pigs at a dump that she was helping feed, and the boy just disappeared. Those kind of things are absolutely terrifying. And when you mentioned the number, as you were saying the numbers of people that go missing each year, you said minus Alaska and Hawaii, but of course Alaska is notorious for people going missing. That's more than double the national average of people that go missing in Alaska per year. And yeah, we did a movie on that too, as far as that goes, but it's terrifying. And that's, I mean, we're talking about national parks, so I guess it kind of makes more sense that people would go missing in these vast areas where there's less humans around to be seen, less access to help should there be an accident. But there's also these stories where people just go missing, going to get their mail at the end of their driveway, and they just don't come back in the house. And that stuff, it's frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Same wavelength, because I was just thinking about the Bennington Triangle stuff, which we just finished production on that movie, Kenny, and that'll be coming out here pretty soon. But it does focus a lot on this missing person stuff. And the thing for me is like people forget how big the world is, you know? Like, we live in our houses and we see everything on the internet and we think we know how big the world is, but we really don't. Like, you go to these places like the Bennington Triangle or like the Pennsylvania Wilds, where Heather and I were a few weeks ago, um, and you get this little snapshot of this little slice of the planet, and it looks like it's massive. It looks like it's huge, and it's like, no, this is just a tiny little chunk. You know what I mean? The world is huge. Like, if I take my phone and throw it out the window in a random place in the Pennsylvania wilds, no one's ever going to find it. One, because there's no cell reception out there, but two, because there's
Hmm.
just so much space. So
Yeah.
to me, it just seems like part of that's inevitability. You put people in a place that big, something's going to go missing. Um, and unfortunately, in these cases, it ends up being people. But like you said, Heather, some of these cases are so inexplicable. Like, that's how the Bennington Triangle got its name, because of this series of strange disappearances that took place,
Hmm.
over the course of 5 years back in the 50s. It just doesn't make sense. Like, people who are from the area, who knew the area, they weren't just randomly there and got lost. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's where a lot of the conjecture comes from over, could this be paranormal? Could Sasquatch have something to do with it? Are they getting sucked into alternate dimensions? There's all this conjecture over what's happening to these people. But I think at least part of it is just that the world is huge. There's a ton of space out there. So,
Yeah. And it's hard to talk about missing people without also discussing the Dennis Martin case from
mhm,
1969. Tennessee was seen 1 second and then gone and never found
mhm,
again. And a massive search went out for him over a period of several days and never a sign. Like, how does that even happen? It's
yeah,
easy for us then to say there has to be something else than what we're aware of. There has to be some other element to these cases because we've used all of the tools at our disposal and we're not getting a single clue. So there has to be something outside of our realm of understanding.
mhm,
As far as what is to blame for all of these missing people, because it is an absurd number. Um, I think the most honest answer is I have no idea. It's easy to, of course, talk about the environmental factors. People can slip, they can fall, they can get lost. And when, like Aaron was saying earlier, these these areas of nature are much larger. It's more dense than what you would think until you're there. And you can't see more than 10 feet in front of your face because of how thick the woods are. So if you go off trail, it's not going to be that difficult to get lost. And then in turn, be difficult to find, especially if you
Mhm.
don't have skilled people coming after you in a timely manner. So, and then you've got hypothermia. There are animals that are dangerous of all shapes and sizes. And that's not even getting into more of a paranormal or, um, cryptozoological arena. Um, is it possible that something like a Bigfoot or a Dogman has been responsible for taking people? I don't think that it's necessarily out of the question. I just don't think we're going to be able to prove that anytime soon. I will say, though, that I have heard stories, not about Dogman doing this, but about Bigfoot taking people that have been lost and carrying them to a location.
Mhm.
So there have been interactions with Bigfoot-like creatures, but as we know, when it comes to Dogman, from all the stories that we've heard and encounters that people have recounted, that's it doesn't go well. They're not like picking you up and taking you safely home by any means.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of with Heather there. I think it's a mix of things. I think Kenny, you mentioned people. There's probably a human element involved in at least some of these cases. I mean, I think we can say that with relative certainty because who are the real monsters? You know what I mean? Um, it's
Yeah.
people. We are. People are,
Yep.
is what I mean. Um,
Mhm.
but then you also have, just like Heather said, people they get lost in these massive spaces, and we don't always account, I think, for, like Heather said, predation by normal animals, even just scavengers. Well, this person's body or their belongings were found, a mile, 2 miles from where they were supposed to be. Well, like, a wolf, a coyote, a bear, wild dogs, they can move things pretty far. So I
Mhm.
think that's an element of it too, but it's also case by case. Like, some of these are so inexplicable that everything I've just said, everything I've been saying on this topic since we started discussing it, doesn't really apply. Like with Dennis Martin, it doesn't make any sense. None of those
Mhm.
explanations are easy write-offs, and that's why we're still talking about it. Um,
Mhm.
I do think that there's some sensationalization that goes along with it. Um, you see the memes and the clickbaity stuff that don't really give you any information. They just say people are missing in the national parks, and that gets clicks. That gets attention. And I understand that. I work for a media company. Like, I get it. You have to get people to click on stuff so that you can keep making more stuff. I understand that. But
Mhm.
I think I think sometimes the paranormal aspect, if there is one, can get blown out of proportion. And that's just my opinion. I'm speaking very generally, but
Mhm.
yeah. As far as what Dogman is, though, eh, man, I have for a while and I still am. I think there's more than one thing going on. If we look at the whole breadth of
Mhm.
reports as they exist, if you take into account, say, just pick 20, I think you're probably going to see a cross section of some that are really, really strange and really inexplicable, involving things like mind speak and, mysterious clouds of mist and glowing eyes and all kinds of other stuff that, I think we're all fairly familiar with at this point. um, and then you have other ones that are like, yeah, it was just like a big dog thing, and it stood up and walked away, and it was really weird. It freaked me out, but it just looked like an animal to me. I think there's more than one thing going on. I think some of them are normal canines, in the sense that they're probably a mix of breeds and species we already know about that for some reason have decided to walk on two legs at one time or another. And people happen to see them sometimes. And then I think if we're open to the idea of a spectrum of high strangeness, whatever you want to call it, um, then there is absolutely an aspect of that too. That's where I'm at on that issue these days.
Yeah, I think when it comes to what Dogman is, that's absolutely a question with many with many layers. I think it's not much different again as to what is Bigfoot. What is your opinion on what Bigfoot is? You have people in various camps, and sometimes having those differing opinions can cause very bitter arguments between people. When the
Mm,
reality is, we don't know. We don't have any concrete evidence, but um, thinking of the reports, because thankfully I've never seen a Dogman and I'll be okay never seeing one. But thinking of the reports that I've heard, you do have a variety. Like Aaron said, you have the people that it's clearly a physical creature in the sense that I've heard accounts where people have, multiple, like a family unit type situation happening. When we were looking for people that had encounters in Michigan, though, there was a story where when someone described to me, and I don't think that this one was even, I don't think they were even in the area where we could interview them. It was just when I was casting like a wide net of witnesses, but someone had described that it was almost like the creature that they saw was just as surprised that it was being seen as they were seeing it. Almost like it knew that it shouldn't be visible at this point in time. Like, oh, I'm not even on this plane. Like, who are you? Kind of thing.
Mhm.
And in that moment, it was startled. But then you have other ones where they appear in front of a person, but somebody else doesn't see it. You're not seeing the same thing. So it's like registering in your mind differently than it did with other people, which is more of a supernatural thing, a paranormal thing in that aspect. Like Aaron said, the glowing eyes. But then also a lot of this stuff, when you think of the variety of things that it could be, in my personal thoughts, I often wonder how many of these things are kind of related to like a trickster type element here, where we are talking about multiple things, but there is this middle entity of some sort that mimics other things for whatever reason. And so
Mhm.
maybe some of the things that these people are seeing aren't really dogmen. They're whatever this trickster thing is and has decided to manifest as at that time. Just because I don't know, I have no idea what the purpose of any of it would be, but um, I think it's a complete spectrum of things.
Listen to those answers right there again. I love it. We're gonna bump up the nerd meter right now because this is what I like to do is nerd out. When it comes to glowing eyes, a lot of people don't realize in general that there is a certain layer of everything's eyes that will reflect light, colors, etc. The tapium lycium or tapium lucium.
Mhm.
Certain animals have certain colors. Crocodiles have a amber red glow to their eyes. Super gnarly because if there's any sort of light, ambient light, it doesn't matter whether it's a flashlight, it picks it up. It reflects. Raccoons have a reddish kind of tint to their eyes as well.
Mhm.
Here's even something more nerd out time. Leopard seals, their eyes turn into like flashlights and just glow. It's super gnarly how animals are able to do that. Just figured I would bring that little aspect in. Then, when you talk about how maybe the personification could be distorted, we have a case from Germany where you have two people at a US base running security. They then see what looks to be an elderly gentleman that is indigenous, that is super out of place. He's speaking something they don't really understand. They ask him if he's lost because obviously he's on an area where he shouldn't be. Then he just isn't there anymore, as if he stepped back into the trees. They were kind of confused. They were tired. They turned around. They then hear something and they turn back around. Well, this indigenous man, where he was, had stepped back. Now steps out this shaggy looking wolf like creature. Is it something that they were seeing as if a clamor aspect, meaning you had another case in Arizona where two deputies were near a reservation on the highway where people had reported seeing some sort of strange wolf like creature running beside a car? Well, again, they saw an elderly indigenous man standing on the side of the road. Then all of a sudden, this wolf-like creatures running by their car, and as these officers speed off and look back in the rearview mirror, it is now that same elderly indigenous man that they had just seen. So that would not be the first time I had ever heard about the whole glamour aspect for sure. What if I told both of you that myself and the majority of my science team are leaning towards a lot of these behaviors with the quote unquote dogmen are actually more primate-ish than they are canine. Wait, what, Star Fox? Yes. Hold on before everyone's like, wait a second, the dogman isn't canine? Well, when you look at things such as baboons, especially yellow baboons, they are in packs, pack oriented, which could explain some of these cases where you have numerous of these beings sieging an area. They also have elongated snouts that are very canine-ish. They have huge canine-like teeth. Their eyes glow. They have pointy ears. They have manes. They also have human-like raccoon/squirrel-like hands. They have bent back canine-like looking legs. They are quadrupedal and bipedal. And if you look back in history, only around 10,000 to 11,000 years ago in the fossil record did the good old Dinopithecus, which was a man-sized baboon, supposedly no longer shows up in fossil records. And this was living down in South Africa. You also had the Pteropithecus, which is more ape-based, not in the same aspect of the baboon, but again, was man-sized. And if you look at reports if you look at the Romans and their type of animals that they would bring into the arena for their gladiators to fight, there's numerous reports of man-sized baboons. And actually, this is a Hollywood depiction, but Gladiator 2 shows this where they are battling Dinopithecus, basically, these baboons that are the size of these gladiators.
Cool.
What if some of this is involved with what I was saying, quote unquote, the dogman here? What do you both of you think before we start tying it up with what you guys are going to be up to?
Ooh, that's a fun question. And I don't know. I mean, I'm here for it, if these things were around at that point in time, um, it makes sense that they would have ended up, like, oh, what can we get for these guys to fight? This thing, like I see that. But man, I don't know. That's a new one to me. So
Okay. I feel like the Dinopithecus thing is something that I have heard someone suggest as well when we were out in New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
filming some stuff for the American Werewolves 2 movie. Somebody had brought up that particular theory or something akin to that. That sounds very familiar to me. Yeah, that's a very interesting look at things. When it comes to, I can't speak on on much of that, but when you brought up the Romans, my ears perked up because I'm like, oh, hey, that's my wheelhouse. It is interesting to think of the different creatures that they would have brought in for the games because it actually, I mean, it was all about spectacle, right? They were about when they had the games, it was about increasing prestige for whomever was putting on the games or whatever their purpose was for. So they actually brought in so many animals from around the world that they helped cause some creatures we know to become extinct because they would just bring them in for hunts. Because the day of the games, you had when it started in the morning, they'd bring in trained, like they call them wenators. They brought in these trained guys to hunt them in various means. Then midday for their lunch, they would people in various ways. It depended on what your crime was, but it was public. And then in the evening, they had the gladiators that would come out and fight one another. The animal time in the morning, they brought in so many creatures from all over the world, and the more exotic, the better. So I can totally see them bringing in something that is as gnarly as that.
Yikes. Again, I love it from both of you. And just to add a little bit more seasoning to that, look at you got the devil monkeys. You also have the gugway, which is basically termed the face eater, which has got an elongated baboon-like structure to its face and is a subdivision of the Sasquatch. supposedly, or could it now be a subdivision of the Dogman? There is that really infamous photo. It looks up, it's holding basically something that looks to be maybe a goat or a dog or something. Super gnarly right there as well. And then you have the Ohio case where Jody found a large baboon skull out in the middle of the woods near Dogman and Grassman reports. It had a boomstick hole in the back. Was it somebody's pet that they took out and did that? Did a hunter see this running around and do that? I don't know. No one can verify that. It was on Monster Quest with Doug Hychak back in like 2006. Again, super gnarly. Well, what do you both think of that? And then to tie this up, let everybody know, including myself, the great adventures you have upcoming.
Ooh, baboons. Baboons. Yeah. See, that one comes up a lot too because I remember when we were in Lockhart a couple years ago filming the
Mhm,
Texas Dogman Triangle, and we talked to James Witter about the Plum Creek Monster. That's one of my
mhm,
favorites. That always comes back up for me. But
mhm.
that was kind of one of the descriptions people gave, is it could have been baboon. Like hyena came up a lot more often with that
Yes.
case, but that was one of the things you would hear people toss around. I don't know how a baboon got out to the Texas Hill Country, but you know,
People
um,
illegally getting them sometimes.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. We've had, as far as where Jody would have found that skull, it wouldn't have been anywhere near the Zanesville area. But thinking about exotic animals showing up, there was an incident. I mean, it was years ago now. It doesn't feel like it was all that long ago, but I'm sure it was probably 10 or 15 years at this point, where someone who had a large amount of exotic animals kind of, I don't know, if I can't remember if they lost their mind or maybe they were going to be made to give up the animals because they didn't have the proper licensing or something along those lines. But instead of just doing that, they released them all,
oh yeah,
which then actually just sentenced them because they, most of them, when they found them, instead of trying to take them somewhere else. I don't know. That's something that is definitely not out of the realm of possibility. People take creatures like that all the time and get them when they should not. And then
hmm,
they raise them from a very cute stage until they realize, oh my goodness, this thing can rip my face off. And then they let it out because they can't take care of it anymore. So um, maybe somebody did have a baboon, as terrifying as that would be. Have you seen their teeth? It is
yes,
absurd.
yeah.
um,
It's not
yeah.
good.
No, no, no. That's not pet material. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know. It's wild. It's wild, the things that people do, and all the possibilities out there, and then how that may affect even what we do, because that kind of, even things like that sort of muddies the waters for us in what we're looking into when,
Hmm,
all of these other possibilities exist as well. So,
yeah,
yeah. But as far as what we've got coming up, um, Aaron has a ton of stuff actually. We're going to be talking more Dogman next year in at least two different formats,
yeah,
movie wise and book wise.
yeah.
Um, and that book is going to be by Mr. Aaron Deese.
I'm
Um,
r- I'm gonna
that's
do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the first book, and then he's also writing a second book in the same year, but this one's going to be about Bigfoot.
yeah. The Bigfoot one is actually already done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So that, well, mostly. Is it ever really done? They're never done. But that one's pretty much finished. And then Dogman book, which will be the third one I'm attempting to write on the topic, will be out sometime early next year. I think we said early summer. But that one is called Werewolf, the Dogman Legacy. And I'm intentionally putting both of those terms in the title. I'm doing it on purpose. It's the start of my villain era. Gloves are coming off. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't entirely know what that means yet, but yeah, yeah, I'm excited. A lot of Dogman stuff. And then we have the movie Dawn of the Dogman coming out in like 2 weeks, I think, December
Yeah,
9th.
pre-orders will be open technically as of recording, open tomorrow for Dawn of the
Yeah.
Dogman.
And that's of course the Michigan Dogman story. And for anyone listening who knows the Michigan Dogman story and has heard the song, the legend, yes, it's in the movie. We licensed the
Mhm.
song. We got Steve Cook. So it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. Very good movie. Linda Godfrey is in it. Seth had some archival interview footage with her
Yeah.
that was filmed during the Bray Road Beast that has never been seen before. So
Mhm.
very excited to include that as a tribute to her legacy. That was very much part of the focus for Seth. So, and then next year
Yeah.
we're doing Dogman Legacy, the movie, which will be not the book. It'll accompany the book, but it's not going to be the same thing. It'll be kind of like what we did
Mhm.
with Dogman Triangle and Dogman Territory, where they have book components, but you don't have to read the book to get it. It'll be its own thing. So
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna be chasing UFOs. Aaron and
Hmm.
Shannon LeGros will be. That's coming next year. Of course, lots of YouTube stuff. In the immediate future, like Aaron said, we have Dawn of the Dogman, but also Kinderhook will be coming out soon, and Bennington Triangle should be shortly after that, so early 2026. At some point, I don't know if we have an exact date for that yet, but um, yeah, it's just I feel like right now, as far as what Aaron and I do, we're in the quote unquote slow season right now. And I
Mm.
say that very carefully because it's not really slow at all, but we're not out what seems like every week at this moment in time because we're heading into the holidays and winter. But it won't be long before we're back out on the road again, um, trying to get as much content filmed as possible to keep these
Yes.
stories out there.
Hmm.
Beautiful stuff again from both of you legends. Wouldn't expect anything less. To the audience, if you would like to get a hold of Heather and Aaron, leave a comment down below here or head on over to Small Town Monsters thread. Their link is going to be up in the description as well. That is a direct way to communicate with both of them down in the comments here or there.
Mhm.
Also, yes, I do understand no one likes to watch ads. Yet if you do enjoy your content creators, small or large, we strategically put those ads in there. Helps us so much with the algorithm. So does liking, commenting, and sharing that stuff around. We do adore all of you, and thank you so much for hanging out tonight, Heather and Mr. Aaron.
Oh, thank
Hey,
you
of
for having
course,
us.
man. Thank you for having us. Always enjoy hanging out.
The fear in your eyes. Exquisite. What gifts have been brought to me? Once again, this vampiric relic is in the proper hands of LordeStarfox and, of course, the Midnight Society.